Hello, everyone. Welcome to WordPress Accessibility Day. My name is Jay McKay, and I'm the Director of Community Programs at Knowbility. This session is going to be a lightning round of 3 short talks that have been pre-recorded. Our first talk will be Can the Cloud Accelerate Accessibility? Presented by Robert Jacoby, who's Director of WordPress Cloudways. The second talk will be ARIA State Management and Modern CSS, presented by Nick Croft, lead developer at Reactive Studios. And the third session will be Introducing Accessibility to Existing Designs, presented by Katie Gleason, web designer at WP Engine. For this session, there will not be a Q&A during the lightning round, but please feel free to use the ideas section to chat with the other attendees.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Jacoby, Director of WordPress at Cloudways, and it's my great pleasure to talk about whether the cloud can accelerate accessibility. Let's jump right into it. What cloud are we talking about? I like to look at the cloud in a couple of different ways. There are some of the more traditional understandings of what the cloud is, and then a couple of other different parts and pieces. I like to think about it first and foremost from a hosting perspective. Why? Because everything is hosted somewhere. No matter what kind of application, whether it's on, AWS, on DigitalOcean, on Cloudways, or self-hosted, some other kind of virtual private server, everything's hosted somewhere. Hosting is the critical component of everything that's online. I know it's probably pretty self-explanatory and obvious, but this means that folks who are in hosting have a critical role in how quickly accessibility is adopted. My next cloud is the cloud of interaction, social media. Tons of user-generated content. This is the place where folks come in and out to drop in videos, images, text, audio, everything. Of course, we're talking about Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever's out there that can really be considered social. It's hugely important. So much information is going back and forth. So we have our hosting cloud, sort of our social media cloud, and then the software as a service cloud. Every other application online. And we use these things all the time. Everything from our banks, QuickBooks, Adobe's Creative Cloud, all kinds of applications, Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, that's that software as a service cloud. So it tries to cover all those sort of more niche applications that, I wouldn't say are typically hosting or social media. Our next question is, does the cloud actually understand accessibility? What do I mean by that? Have they done some of that homework that's even necessary to really ramp up and accelerate accessibility for everyone? Let's take a look at a couple of quick items. Is that cloud provider, whether it's a hosting company, social media company, some other software as a service, is their site accessible? Are they doing some of the legwork to implement accessibility, on their own? And that's usually a first step for a lot of projects in development. You're going to try things out on your own and see what best practices are. So one way to see whether that cloud provider is looking to the future around taking accessibility seriously is whether their site is actually accessible. Do they have an accessibility team? Now, this is critical for small to medium to large size businesses. And a lot of times that team can be outsourced, of course. I recommend having human participants on that accessibility team. A lot of the software solutions are, I find today, still much riskier than having folks who are completely embedded and understand what the necessary requirements for accessibility are. So are there accessibility experts on staff? Again, we're looking at where cloud providers, again, hosting, social media, SaaS, are, whether they're, on the road to being successful on accessibility, to see how quickly they will support some of the ideas I have for accessibility in the future. So are there accessibility experts on staff? And then sort of almost at the furthest level, is there actual accessible support for customers? Is this some kind of chatbot that really doesn't work with all sorts of accessible applications? Is it completely incompatible with screen readers? Is there an understanding on support teams that they may be interacting with someone who has accessible requirements? So, understanding again where on the spectrum a cloud provider might be, I think is critical, because the cloud can help a lot. Where could the cloud help? In literally everything. And it's interesting how, especially, it can benefit WordPress developers, agencies, and even end users. The cloud can help, first and foremost, by enforcing front-end accessibility. I mentioned user-created content earlier because I think that it's almost a quick and dirty way to start dropping in some type of accessibility that is clear, easy, understood well. My favorite example is, if you are going to upload an image, that image can't be uploaded without proper tagging. Period. The cloud can enforce this. I mean, it's so easy for all these applications that tie into your camera to just be like, oh, just upload away, upload away. But the cloud can enforce front-end accessibility by saying, thanks for your image, we can't publish this until you fill out accessible content. That move in itself would greatly benefit the internet for accessibility requirements. We can do that with all sorts of content, obviously. So if we're looking at, I mentioned images because I think that's probably one of the easiest enforceability aspects on the front end. But also, obviously, video, audio, going through some of that legwork. Maybe even offering it as a type of upsell to make sure that it's done right. I mentioned I'm not a big fan of automated solutions, but they're sometimes better than nothing, right? So again, having a level of front-end accessibility enforcement, I think, is critical to the success of the internet, as well as something that can dramatically accelerate the adoption of good accessibility on the internet by these cloud providers. And that's right. Hosting companies can make that a requirement. And it's really education for both developers and end users that this is going to be part of the process. We don't allow bad tagging anymore in HTML for that same reason. And that's going to take me to the next bit of the conversation, is enforcing infrastructure accessibility, render with standards. So everything should be run through at least some kind of code checker, and enforcing that on the back end is really important. That improves the quality of code, obviously, and makes that code also accessible to folks who want to update it. So if we think about that in the open source space, but can, from sort of a bottom up, start percolating to what on the earlier slide, talking about enforcing front-end standards, going one step at a time. Tied very closely to infrastructure, of course, is third-party accessibility. The cloud can enforce third-party accessibility. Don't accept plugins, JavaScripts, and APIs that haven't been thoroughly vetted. The cloud can make sure that happens, either as a provider of those services or as a recipient and user of those services. We don't need WordPress plugins that aren't accessible. We don't need bad JavaScript that screws up page rendering. We don't need APIs that don't spit out data that isn't accessibly tagged, that isn't ready to be repurposed in an accessible standard. So many times we're getting content, images, media directly from the API, and that's all we're getting. We're not getting all the metadata around that could actually be utilized to create a much more accessible experience for folks. And really, accessibility improves the web all around. If you think about the enforcement of front-end, back-end, and third-party integrations, that enforcement would dramatically accelerate the web. You look at all the opportunities that would be created. Even simple things for folks who don't need accessibility, they don't realize how sometimes they may be situations where if they were working from an accessible site, their experience would be dramatically improved. Maybe it's on a mobile phone in a bright day, and the contrast is actually good enough. It is made improved, I should say, by an accessible website rather than on a site that's all cluttered and garbagey, and then you still can't utilize the experience. Obviously, good tagging for everything improves search engine optimizations. It clarifies content. It helps create taxonomies of data. So it's very exciting for me, the opportunities that exist for the cloud to really accelerate adoption of accessibility through enforcement, front end, back end, and third party. I hope that we can all start poking, prodding, and really demanding at the end of the day that those types of standards are ones that should be the commonplace across the internet, not an exception to the rule. We don't need bad SaaS, bad hosting, bad social from an accessibility perspective. It only hinders communication, and at the end of the day, I find that accessibility improvements are really communication improvements. So, thank you very much. Robert Jacoby from Cloudways. You can reach me at my email, robert@cloudways.com, on Twitter, at Robert Jacoby, and on my phone number. Yep, I actually put that in there. That's 847-687-5860 US. Can't guarantee I'll answer everyone's texts. Thank you very much and have a great WordPress Accessibility Day.